All right, everybody. So this afternoon, just going to do a quick job on this beast of a scooter, which is just literally the sort of family run around. And what we've got is this front disc brake is doing absolutely nothing. So I'll give you a shot of the brakes. So that's, as you can see, back to the handlebars, doing absolutely nothing. There's no brake fluid in it, but the problem is that down the caliper, there's actually quite a lot of brake corrosion that you'll see all through here. And I feel like either the bleed nipple is loose or the O-ring's gone in, or potentially the pot, the brake pot, there's an O-ring, or there's actually a couple of O-rings around that, within the caliper, that may have perished over time, because this unit doesn't get used very much. It's like a jump on once every 6 months and have a go. Bit of fun. So I'm going to pull this caliper apart and start diagnosing what's happened there, and then organise getting it fixed. Look at that, stainless bolt. So just a quick rundown, hopefully you can see here with the light, there's actually a lot of meat left on these pads, which is great, but there is corrosion all over the pot. So I'm not worried about brake fluid leaking out because there's nothing left in this. So what I'm going to do is take off, this is called a banjo fitting, and the reason it's called a banjo fitting, you probably hear people refer to them on YouTube a lot. It's a bolted fitting that allows fluid to flow through it, if that makes sense. So the fluid can still pass down this line. The bolt goes through the middle of this round fitting. This is called a banjo fitting. So the bolt is still pulling it tight. There's washers, fiber washers either side of that, but the fluid can still pass through. Works really well. Probably should have undone this when it was on the unit rather than doing it now, but that's okay. What I'll do is just put in, put it back on there for a second. The scooter can help me fix it. Alright. So there is a bit of oil in there, which is very, I don't know if you can see it or not, it's very, very dirty. Take that out gently. So you'll see there, if I take this out, the fluid can come through. There's a hole inside there. There's a hole in this bolt and a hole in the center, so the fluid effectively can come down, go through the side of the bolt into the fitting, and it can go inside the brake caliper. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this apart as best as I can for you on camera. There's a lot of mess on this desk purely because I've been so busy lately with lots of different things, but we'll start by getting a bit of action on these. Very loose, probably too loose. Take this out and this out. So underneath these two caps, as you can see, there are some Allen keys. Alright, back to go and get my Allen keys from a different spot. So So by undoing these retainers, it'll enable me to remove the pads. Brake fluid, when it dries and goes all corrody, is horrible for bolts. It just absolutely makes them so hard to get out. There's all different ways and orders you can do every single different brand of brake caliper. Pulling them apart, putting them back together again. Putting them back together again is obviously the more integral part. That out. Okay, so that's out. So my pads are out now. They're the brake pads. Oh, we've got a massive storm coming by the sounds of it. Brake pads look good. Still plenty of meat left on those. I have to give those a clean before I put them back in again, just in case they've got some sort of brake oil, dot brake fluid on them now. It's on my fingers, but just looking at that line of, I wouldn't call it rust, but that line of corrosion-y sort of rust on there would suggest there's been something sitting in between the pot and the back of this pad, which shouldn't be there because they shouldn't rust like that. This caliper, I don't know if you can see in there or not. Where's my little torch? If you see in there, the caliper's got a lot of rust inside it, and there's a lot of crap around the outside of the pot. So this is the pot here, so this pushes out and squeezes the brake pads together, so you have your disc in the middle and this squeezes against the pad. The pads squeeze against the disc. This pot moves in and out when you squeeze the brake handle, or even when you put your foot on the brake in the car, the hydraulic or brake, whatever sort of fluid you're running, but the brake fluid pushes this pot out like a piston, applies pressure on the disc via the pads, and then when you take your foot off the brake, it releases and the fluid basically retracts from behind the pot, allowing the pot to go back into the caliper. So it's a squeeze motion like that. It's the same on any of these sort of things. And when you hear people talk on cars about multiple pots, or 1 pot, 2 pots, 6 pot brakes, so that's literally how many of these pots it have, and the more you have, the stronger the brakes are, within reason, as a general rule of thumb. Yeah. Around the edge of the pot, that's where there's a lot of build up. So there's an O-ring, and I'll get this out in a second. There's an O-ring around this piston or pot, and I would say that at some point that's perished now. Super important when you're pulling these out that you don't mar them. So you got to be careful that you don't just stick something on it like a pair of pliers and just pull on it and you damage the outside of it. You have to be very careful when you're pulling it out. I'm just going to put a little bit of penetrant on it. Now, like I said, we are going to rebuild this, so all this will be cleaned out, but I just wanted to make it a bit easier for that to come out. So we'll just let that sit for a second. And soak. And while that's soaking, a quick update on the trailer. I've been really struggling to get the panels for the trailer. I had them ordered, they didn't come. I tried another company, so I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks to have those panels on the trailer. It's just been super slow. In the last video I mentioned the possibility of another jet ski. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping to pick that up at some stage during this coming week or weekend. It's going to be a sport style ski. This summer I'd like to get into doing a bit more of the freestyle skiing, in the way of throwing the ski around and backflips and that sort of thing, and rolls and whatever else you do. So that's the sort of ski that I'm hoping to pick up, but it will need some work on it. So it'll be a couple of months probably rebuild, and then get it out in the water for our summer coming. So that's the plan for that. There has been a bit of a delay, which has been very frustrating for me, but there's not much that I can really do about it, unfortunately. Now this piston is absolutely seized in here, so we're going to have to go to a little bit of a plan B. If you ever do damage these, there are replacement that's available. Just hoping to, there we go, okay. So that has started to move. There we go. Just be very gentle. Even now it's moved, I still only want to grab it from the very top. It's a bit like any sort of hydraulics on an excavator, tractors. You have to be very careful that you don't mar or scratch or burr your chrome cylinders. Because if you put a burr or a scratch in this every time it goes past the rubber O-rings, it'll damage the O-rings and then your oil will leak and everything will just get worse and worse and worse from there. So give this a bit of a wipe off and see if I can see anything particular on here, which I can't really see anything that looks horribly bad, which is good. I rebuilt a set of brakes on a gas motorbike a few years ago, and it was twin pot brakes, and these just had scratches and everything down it. They couldn't work out why they kept leaking, and I pulled them apart, and pretty quickly we worked out that that was why. Every time the new seal kit was going in, it was just destroying it. So what's happening in here? So there's one O-ring in there, which you can probably see. There's one protective ring up the top, which is this one here, which looks very hard. There's another one below it, which actually looks quite good, that one below it. I might just flick it out just to see what's happening with it, like that. There's quite a lot of dirt on that, on the face of it. Let's see if we can scrape some up. Quite a lot of dirt and crap, as you can see there on that. I was surprised how dirty the brake fluid was that came out of this actually. It was had bits of dirt and God knows what in it. You might have seen it when I pulled it, when I undid that banjo fitting. This rubber actually looks really good. There's no scratches in it at all, so we may be able to reuse that, which would be good. Just have a look at this top rubber, sorry. Very gently. Get that out. Now this one here is very, you can see, so obviously the inside face is where that chrome piston pot slides up and down, but behind it there's a lot of corrosion. So hopefully you can see in there. I might shine the torch in there for you again. There's quite a bit of, so you can see quite a bit of corrosion down in there build up. That will definitely need to all be cleaned out. I've actually also seen these rubbers put in the wrong way around too. That can happen as well. Alright, so that's in there. Put this rubber in. This rubber is, like I said, it looks basically brand new. So I'll put this rubber back in. that. Perfect. Okay, so a bit of brake fluid. I just normally put it in the lid like that. A bit on the fingers. Just like that. So it's back in now. Just squeeze that back in, like that. Perfect. Now, that did feel like it went in very easily. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? The last few that I've done have put up a bit more of a fight than that, so that might mean that that O-ring is actually toast. But what we're going to do is we'll put it back together again, and we'll put it on the scooter and we'll see how it goes. You wouldn't read about it, my air compressor. I have a silent air compressor, which is fantastic. It's a Chicago brand. It's decided that the regulator, the output regulator on it, has the knob broke off it, so I can't. I've got no air at the moment, which is very less than ideal. But the show must go on. Okie dokie. All right, let's put this back on here. And tell you what, how about I meet you back over at the scooter? Sorry about the shadows. I've got an LED light behind the GoPro just to give you a bit more light. I noticed in the last one that there was a bit of a, didn't have great lighting. So I'm going to try and work on something a bit different for that. But anyway, like I said, we work with what we have. Get these back together again. It's funny, it's by design, I know, but the bleed nipple for these is here, which means that as soon as you open it and bleed it, it all just runs back down over the brake. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little container and I'm going to pour fluid in the reservoir first, so I can get it down here, and then we'll put it on back into there like that. Alright, so that banjo fitting's back on there again, which is good. Lift that up. So for those wondering, this is the cylinder that I was filling up. This little sight glass in the front there, which I've overfilled for the minute. But what I was doing was I would apply pressure on here, and then I would undo the nut all the way back to the handlebar, tighten that nipple up, and then once the nipple was tight, I would let go, so it would be sucking and drawing the fluid down through the braking system. Okay, I'll give you a demo as best as I can here before we go on a bit of a test drive, but spin the wheel and apply the brake. So that seems to be working well now. Alrighty, let's go rip up the streets. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to hear me while I'm riding this, so we'll see how we go. There we go. Front brakes working, and again working. They're working well. Perfect. All right, I would call that success. All right, so the Jolly. I'm happy with that. That brakes well. I mean, look, it's not going to be stopping on a dime. You wouldn't want it to, because you'd probably bin it and end up quite hurt. But I'm happy with that. They work well. They actually work better than what I thought they would. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to park this in a spot where there's nothing obvious dripping under the caliper, and I'll keep an eye on it for the next week or so, and see if it is dripping. If it does drip, then we'll have to replace those seals, which is fine. I feel like it was probably the corrosion behind that top seal that was forcing it out, which was allowing the oil to leak out, and that's been like that for years. Without a front brake, like I said, we barely use it. It is registered to go on the road, but it mainly gets ridden around on the grass. So, but that's now fixed, which is great. So we'll keep an eye on it, and maybe this little scooter will make a guest appearance somewhere else. It's actually a good little scooter. There's enough room under there for about 6 beers and a packet of chips, and it's pretty stable on the road, to be honest. Like you saw, it struggles to get to, it'll do 60 down a hill with me on it, and I'm every part of 100 kilos, so and if someone lighter would definitely go along a bit faster. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Keep tuned. Like I said a bit earlier in the video, let me flip this around so you can actually see me. Like I said a bit earlier in the video, what's flickering? The refresh rate on that LED is not great. Like I said a bit earlier in the video, how's the helmet here? The trailer, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to get the parts for that this week. And then, like I said, the jet ski. That's going to be a fun project. The jet ski, get that up and going. As far as I can tell, engine-wise, it doesn't appear to need a rebuild. It's just, I'm not going to say too much. I'll keep it a surprise. But it does actually need some cosmetic work on the outside of it. So obviously the first jet ski, like I said, was more of an internal engine thing. The outside's pretty good on that jet ski. This one is not the polar opposite, but it's opposite. It's more of a needs a few things on the engine, but outside needs a bit more love. So that'll be what that's about. I'm excited for that. It's going to be good. So anyway, like I said, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share this channel. I want to grow it. We're getting some cool feedback. It seems the jet skis is what is the flavor of the month at the moment, which is really cool. So that's hence why I'm trying to do another project on that. But we'll see how we go and try and sneak some more farm stuff in here, farm machinery rebuilds, and keep pushing it. So thanks, guys. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the support. If you want me to do a video on something, I've seen it before. Someone asked for a generator, which I've been looking out for. But just throw it down in the comments. Just say, hey Mick, can you do a video on this? Happily go and search for something and bring it to you guys, if that's what you want. So anyway, stay safe, stay well, and I will see you in the next week or so. Cheers, guys. Thanks.